Thank you, James, for coming on the podcast. How was that for you?
Oh gosh, hey, I've been on better, Daniel. If I'm honest, I wanted it to be mainly about me. I did ask you to ask me how much I earn, and you didn't.
Oh,
And I want people to know how successful I am, and I don't think that's come across at all. I'm not happy. In fact, that you're gonna get an invoice for my hour, and I am expensive. I'm disappointed. I mean, you built this thing up to be, really beneficial to me, and it's just been a waste of an hour, to be honest. Not getting this back, am I?
this is the We Built This Business podcast. I'm your host, Daniel O'Sullivan. This is the podcast for UK business owners to share their journey, their knowledge, their sacrifices, and their successes. Hello, and welcome back to the We Built This Business podcast. Today, I'm pleased to have James Clutterbuck on the podcast talking about Berkeley Red and Red 7 Grand Prix, as well as their new brand, Red 7 Club. If you follow James on LinkedIn, you'll be aware of the hilarious videos and posts that he regularly releases. Behind the comedy, James is running an impressive business, and I'm looking forward to finding out how he has built his business over the last few years. James, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Daniel. Good to be here.
Good to have you, James. Really looking forward to hearing how you've built, especially through the comedy angle on LinkedIn. But first of all, James, could you give our listeners a brief overview of what Berkeley Red and your other sub-brands are currently up to?
Yeah, for people that do follow me on LinkedIn, this will come as a great shock. We're an events company, a VIP events company at its heart. So we organise sort of top-end events, VIP hospitality at sporting events like British Grand Prix, Royal Ascot, and all that kind of stuff. Our specialist event, I suppose, is F1. That's where we set ourselves up as a bit of a specialist, with the Monaco Grand Prix being our flagship event. And we have a Superyacht down there, and we now take in around about 200 VIPs down in about 3 weeks' time, actually. So it's all systems go from that point of view at the moment. And then we do the other stuff that sort of below the radar, but that we talk directly to big businesses about in terms of their incentive trips that they'll do to reward their sales teams and their staff. Do those worldwide. We're taking major car company, can't say who it is, we're taking a major car company down to the south of France next week for all their top salespeople. So that's something that we want to grow as well. And then the Red 7 sort of Grand Prix side of things is something that we're developing on the side to be our specialist arm or brand for F1. We will bring into more existence as we grow as a company. And then the Red 7 Club, again, is something we are growing alongside Berkeley Red as a sort of high-level networking club that is based around attending things like British Grand Prix or doing high-level driving days, that sort of thing. But it's a very premium nature and attracts, your high net worths and CEOs, MDs of bigger businesses, and is run as there's a million networking events out there that you can go and have breakfast in a hotel suite and meet John the accountant down the road. But our events will give you access to people probably a little bit further up the ladder in terms of who the companies they're running and the size and success, etc. So that's it in a very nutshell. We do so much stuff. It's difficult to kind of condense into about a minute, but that's the elevator pitch, if you like.
Well, it sounds fantastic to me, James. You've got so many fingers and so many pies. It's a lot going on. What kind of size team do you have, and what kind of revenue are you on now?
So we, in terms of full-time staff, we've got six, just about to be 7 full-time. There are a couple of part-time people that help with a bit of marketing, social media, and event management. And we have 2 regular freelancers attached to the company that we bring in when we need to run events, etc. So it's probably, the extended team is probably around about 11 or 12 people, but there's sort of the 6 or 7 of us that are day to day. In terms of revenue, since COVID, it's our first year after COVID, we did 1.3 million in turnover. Then we had a slight dip to about 1 million. And then this year we're on for about 1.8 and 2 if we have a good couple of months, so to speak. So we're at that sort of just past startup level, if you like. And we're just looking to really grow that revenue out as we go, and just try and build our team, build our sales capability and our marketing reach specifically, so we can really go forward with that revenue.
Sounds like fantastic growth you got going on. Going back to the beginning then. So obviously you mentioned since COVID. When did Berkeley Red form, and what's the kind of the inspiration behind starting the business?
Okay, how long you got? In a nutshell, this is going back about 20 years now. I was approached by a couple of clients. I'd always been in events and corporate hospitality. I started in basically a telesales role when I was about 25 because I didn't know what else to do, and I wanted to do something in sport, and it looked like quite good fun. Little did I know that hard telesales has got nothing to do with sport or anything else. It just hit the phone and sell. But it cut my teeth in that industry, and then I went to another company in a slightly better role. And two of my clients then, or one of my clients, approached me with his business partner and said, "We've got an idea. We'd like you to come and start an events business with us." And I was quite young at the time, I was about 27, 28. I thought, I may as well. I'll give it a go. I had no ambitions at that point. Just sort of sliding doors moment. I thought, oh yeah, why not then? And we grew a big agency from, when did we start? About 2002 until when I left in about 2017. I was there for about 16, 17 years. We grew it from basically nothing to, I think at its peak is about 8 or 9 million turnover and 30, 40 staff. Again, doing similar things to what we're doing now in terms of events and everything else, but obviously on a slightly bigger scale. We just grew the company to that size. And about 2015, 2016, I started getting a bit of the itch in terms of, I was earning quite a lot of money and it was all very nice, etc. But the company had got to such a size in terms of our overhead each month, and a lot of business owners will relate to this, is that, especially in our world where you start at naught on the first of the month, and we were having to cover sort of 150 grand at its peak, something like that, in terms of overhead each month before we even made any money. And it became very, very pressured. And we started having to run the board. We started having to run the company in a very corporate way in terms of numbers on a spreadsheet, and it went away from being this sort of creative, fun agency that we grew into basically a corporate money maker. And I played my part in it. I did, but ultimately I started falling out of love with the company. Board meetings become a little bit terse, etc., etc. People start falling out with each other. So it's sort of the beginning of the end. And so around about October 2017, we parted ways. Very amicably. I was still a shareholder there at the time. I still kept my shares and everything else, and very amicable because it was just suited every party. And then I sort of left that sort of washout meeting about midday up in the middle of London somewhere, and then I went straight down to the pub to meet my best mate from university, Kristen, who is now my business partner, and said, "Shall we start a company?" He had the same. His background was recruitment. He'd been an MD in some major recruitment companies like Spencer Ogden, for people who might know that, but that major recruitment company managing hundreds of staff. He was the MD, highly pressured, as you can imagine. He had enough of that sort of world as well. So he left that job probably about a year before I did. And he was kind of just jogging along and waiting for something to do. So we started Berkeley Red then as an idea. He's got a couple of other recruitment businesses he started as well with his wife, kind of sister companies to us. And then it sort of, we chatted around for about 6 months before we actually pulled the plug and said, right, that's in company's house now, and now we're starting. So we started properly, I would guess midway through 2018, something like that. And we went from there, really. It was just the two of us to start. About 3 months later, we got, again, a mate of ours from university, Paul, who people will see him on LinkedIn. He's a bit of a straight man to my funny man, so to speak, on posts. And we said, do you want to join us, so to speak? We can't pay you very much money, but come on this journey with us and we'll see where we go. He came on board, and we went from there, really. And we took a bit of a gamble, company-ending gamble, I would say, on Monaco Grand Prix, because I just thought we've just got to stick our flag in the sand with something to make a noise, and we chartered a super yacht.
So was that straight away that you kind of put your gamble on Monaco?
Yeah.
Was it straight away after starting the company, or had you done some?
It wasn't. Spent probably 8-9 months of trying to sell, trying to grow little bits of business here and there. But I got to the point and said to Chris, look, we could either carry on this in a risk-free way and grow really quite slowly, because it is very difficult to win business in our industry, because it's just there's so many competitors and it's such a low bar of entry industry that you're always competing against somebody for kind of selling the same sort of thing. So I just said, look, we've got two choices there. Either we can just carry on as we are in a kind of risk-free manner, and we might get to where we need to be in 3 or 4 years' time, or we can take this big risk now and just take that leap forward if we make it work. We're both quite sort of risk. We don't mind a bit of risk, having come from fairly risk-averse corporations in many senses. So it's kind of getting out of that to go, let's just take it. We've got no data to back us up on this. We've got nothing else apart from our gut feel that this is what we think is a good thing to do, which is against every piece of marketing and business advice, if you like. It was almost liberating to take that decision. And I said it could have, you won't appreciate how much money. For a small company, we were taking the best part of a 300, 400 grand risk.
How do you even charter super yacht? Do you, how do you even get a booth at, or a bay, at Monaco?
I can't lift the magic, the wizard's curtains. But this is what I'd been in for 20 years. So I have all the contacts to do that. And that's why I knew how to do it and who to ask and how to do this stuff. Because it's effectively what I'd been doing anyway through 10, 15 years before that. So I had all that knowledge anyway, and it was all my contacts that I brought to previous companies. So I knew how to do it, and I knew the market. I knew the sort of other agencies who buy off people that run super yachts. So when we say we took this £400,000 risk, we didn't stick 400 grand down of our own money. We didn't have that money. We had to stagger, obviously, payments out the other side to money coming in. And as soon as we took the decision, I was on the phone to a few people that I knew I could de-risk it with. So we brought in some almost immediate business from some partners that went, I'll take 20 places from you if you can give me a good rate. Fine, that helps us de-risk it, blah, blah, blah. So that was how and it was a great success.
How many people could you have on that yacht, for example?
So on the yachts we have, which are at the time, they're about 30 to 35 meters long. So they're big old. If you saw it in your front garden, it'd look massive. These are big tridecks, and they're not as big as the real mega yachts, but they're still sizable, and you can fit. We get 80 guests on per day. That's including cabin guests as well. So it's a nice number. It feels it's not too crowded, but there's enough people for it to have a bit of atmosphere. So we do parties in the evening and hospitality during the day to watch the racing, etc. And we will sell places on board either individual days, or we'll package it up with a hotel or whatever else we do. So that's how we sold it initially.
This podcast is sponsored by Team Building Experiences. If you're planning a team building event, away day, or corporate event, then check out team-building-experiences.co.uk and state podcast 15 in the comments to receive 15% off your proposal. The first, the first yacht that you chartered, so you'd phoned around and you'd spoken to some contacts and got some business essentially. So like you said, you de-risked it. How did you then go about selling the rest of the places?
So this comes on to the way that we came up with marketing the company, which is LinkedIn basically. We'd come from fairly traditional at the time, to that sort of period 2018. You wanted to market your company, you'd have a nice looking website, you'd buy Google AdWords, or you'd get an SEO company to get you at the top of rankings. You'd have an email list that you bang email marketers out to. You'd have a big sales team to phone companies and try and sell them stuff. Basically, that's essentially what most companies in our industry do. We didn't have the money to spend on loads of marketing and all the time to get SEO rankings. And at the time, our website was literally a one pager. It looked rubbish. So we didn't have the money to get to pump into Google to pay for loads of adverts. We didn't have the website to convert the traffic anyway. We didn't have the time for SEO. We didn't have a big sales team or the money. And it was kind of the only thing we did have was my contacts in a way, but they were more agency based, that we weren't going to really grow in getting the sort of margin. So I said to Chris, I said, look, we've got my inspiration for the way marketing was actually Paddy Power. I don't know if you've seen Paddy Power's their style of videos and their Twitter feed and all the rest of it. And originally I said, why don't we run our Twitter feed in a really irreverent way and just be funny with it? And we'll get, because I know our industry is incredibly corporate. It's a little bit dull. It takes itself a little bit too seriously. Like, we're too cool for school, sort of people that work in it, especially the owners. They're not willing to have a laugh at themselves or take themselves too not seriously, so to speak. I was, and but then I thought, Twitter's, that's gonna be really difficult. I don't know who's on it, but LinkedIn you do know on it. And we use LinkedIn in my previous company just as basically a database to go and say, right, we just need to hit 50 MDs, let's go and find them on LinkedIn and then phone them effectively. So we didn't use it as a content marketing piece. So I said, there's this sort of movement that was happening at the time, 2018, of it becoming a little bit less corporate, and there was people on it, new people. There was people like Mike Winnett and Dan Kelsall and these sorts of guys that were using it in a different way I'd never seen before. And I was looking at the engagement of these guys going, they're just being funny. They're just doing funny content. I can do that. And I can do it in a way that relates to what we sell. So that's where I hit upon this sort of style of left field, funny, humorous, tongue-in-cheek, edgy type of content that would relate to what we sell. And it just went down. It just hit the right note, because the people that we want to buy our stuff are generally 35 years and above, 40 years and above. They've been around the block. They don't take themselves too seriously, and they're just, that sort of humour and everything else hadn't been seen. So it was just almost like a breath of fresh air for people. And so I quite like this guy, trying to run a good business, etc. And it's just content I like. So we just started getting leads through that way, and it just started dripping through. Then we won a piece of business from a company that took 10 people to the British Grand Prix. That turned into them taking 20 to Monaco, etc. So it just sort of snowballed from there a little bit. And we still wasn't using LinkedIn. I still hadn't quite figured it out at that point. We were still doing a bit of email marketing to a database that I had, and that gave us a little bit. So yeah, that's how we filled the yacht, basically.
I mean, that's incredible. And then you filled the yacht. I mean, that is just phenomenal. And I think you first came on to kind of my radar, and I absolutely love it. It was a video of basically you interviewing your customers where they said they had a bad time. And they also gave feedback on how much they disliked you as well, and personally. And it was just brilliant. And I think that was like one of the first videos. I was like, this is, because I thought, I think like a lot of your comedy, I thought it was real. I thought I thought this guy's actually put a video together and they've messed up, as in like they've actually just recorded.
Well, I'll tell you how that came about. Is it was a real. Again, myself and a mate of mine called Will, who's a brilliant videographer, sort of filmmaker. He and I share the same sort of sense of fun and comedy and all that. We're on a few. This is right at the start of of Berkeley Red. We're having a few drinks around Richmond. So we had 4 or 5 pints, and like Will said, let's just go and do something funny on the street with a camera to try and do a piece of funny content, so to speak, for you. So, okay, what do you mean? So let's just go and ask people on the street if they've heard of Berkeley Red before. So we got this. So we just stopped people on the street in Richmond and going up to blokes in bars and going, "Have you ever heard of Berkeley Red before?" And people would go, "No," like that. And we would ask people, "Would you trust a company called Berkeley Red?" No, not at all. Who are so we actually got genuine reaction on this video, and I still use it to this day. Still one of my favourites that we do, and it's just genuine reaction to us asking, "Have you heard of Berkeley Red before?" And then it cuts to a sort of an end piece saying, "Please tell people about us. We obviously need the help," so to speak. And that's played. I mean, I put that video out and it went viral. So we got a load of that. I said, "I love that. I haven't seen that before." And that then translated onto slightly more engineered videos of our customers, obviously, who have had a great time, saying this is, and I wouldn't James Clutterbuck, and he's just drunk all the time, da 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 da. And I just piece this stuff together because it works for me. Every single company out there can get a good review. It's dead easy. It's the easiest thing in the world to get a good review. It's much harder to get a bad review and just own it. So we sort of make these bad reviews again that just play really well on LinkedIn. It's just people saying, "I love the fact you don't take yourself too seriously, not saying, oh, we're the best of the best," so to speak, and you're just obviously normal people. And it speaks volumes actually that you get on with your customers and clients so well, they're willing to do this stuff with you. So, I mean, it just works.
How many followers now have you got on LinkedIn?
I think I've just gone through 45,000. I mean, it sounds a lot. I'm sure it's a lot for most people. But in terms of the views that I get over the course of a year, I don't grow that quickly because I think my content is so kind of niche. It doesn't appeal to the masses. It's not what we want. So I get people that follow us that really like that kind of left field niche stuff, which is not 80% of LinkedIn. So yeah, but I mean, ultimately that's an amazing number. If you told me 4 or 5 years ago that a football stadium would follow you and you've got access to talking to a football stadium daily, effectively, although it doesn't quite work like that, but you know what I mean? You can talk. I can talk to thousands of people daily about what we do. That's the power of it.
Yeah, definitely. I think I read an article by Piers Morgan, and he said when he was, looking after the was it the Daily? I forget which paper he was. The Mirror, wasn't it? He could talk to about 1.5 million people a day through his paper. Now he talks to 12 million people a day through social media, and he's one person. And that's the power of social media.
I understand that. I mean, I talk to a lot of business owners. I've got friends of mine who are business owners and did very well in life, MDs of big companies, etc. And they follow me on LinkedIn, but they don't do any content themselves. And I get a lot of messages from business owners, MDs going, I kind of wish I had the balls to do what you do, but I just can't bring myself to do it. And I understand that in a way. In a way, we had no choice but to do it. But I understand why people would be a little bit reticent. It is scary in a way, just to go, you put yourself out there for criticism, and you've got to have a thick skin and be able to handle people that don't like you, basically. Which a lot of people don't.
Do you get much backlash from people, like sending direct messages, or I've seen a few comments where people don't get it and they think you're being genuine?
Very few people are brave enough to direct message me. I get. Again, this forms a lot of what not a lot, but it forms a section of what my content is. Is because I do a lot of satirical posts that paint me as the worst boss in the world. Basically, I use Paul as a punch bag, and I talk about how we make treat him, or don't pay him very much, or send him blankets in the winter as a bonus, and all this kind of stuff that's just fun and satirical. But lots of, most people get it and go, ha, I get the joke, very funny. There's a section of people that think it's real. Because it just satire or irony or whatever it is, sometimes doesn't translate to people, or they just don't get it. So these people will come into the comments and basically abuse you. And like anything from like serious like swear words and all the rest of it. You're I won't say it on here, but to you're dreadful, your company deserves to fail, blah blah blah. So I just take screenshots of all these comments and I use them in content and say, almost, do you want to do business with the worst bloke on LinkedIn? That sort of thing. I use them in videos. I should have sent it to you. I did a sort of a pastiche on the Hamlet cigar. You remember the old advert back in the day where the music would be in the background. So I sat in the toilet with a Hamlet cigar, just smoking and just saying, I put all these comments up that I got on. I think one of my posts went onto Twitter, onto this Twitter feed called The State of LinkedIn, which is feral. I mean, the abuse is just like football stadium abuse. So I just got all this stuff. I just put this each caption up there, and I was just saying, I'm thinking about ending it all, that sort of thing. And it played so well because I think you just own this stuff, and some people say, "Oh, I hate the trolls and all the rest." I love it. I think you can just own them, and just by making fun of it, it becomes powerful for you, and it's funny for everyone else.
I remember that. I do remember that video. I remember I was putting my kids to bed, I think, as you do, and you're scrolling through your phone waiting for them to go to sleep, and I remember laughing out loud when I saw that, all those kind of comments coming up.
No, you do get hate. You get genuine haters as well, who are just people who just don't get you and just say, I just don't like the way you're doing things, and it's not for me. Okay, we're not for you.
Yeah.
And that's part and parcel. Again, you've got to understand that marketing, and it's something that not a lot of businesses do understand, actually, is marketing needs to polarize your audience. You need to get, if you're too down the middle, you'll get people that might like you and might not, but you'll never get people that love you and fans. If you're too in the middle. We've got people, not only our clients who follow my content and they support it, I wouldn't say who they are and everything else, but they are our client, big business people support my content that are clients, and there's big business people who are saying, I'm not in the market for your sort of stuff, but I will support you because I just love what you're doing, and I love to help raise companies up. And that's what you find, the higher you go sometimes in business, is that people that are successful, and we meet a lot of them because they can't afford our stuff otherwise, they are so supportive of you and what you're trying to do as a small company. It's they're not trying to keep you down and everything else. They're trying their best to boost you up.
I wanted to talk about the super yachts and what kind of goes on the weekend itself. So you get 80 people that come onto the yacht. Obviously, the Grand Prix is going on. What entertainment do you have? What kind of happens for a day-to-day guest?
They'll come on board. So they'll come on board about 10. Most guests will come on board about 10 o'clock in the morning, between 10 and 11, something like that. We take them in. The first bit of the day is actually a speedboat ride. So we take them from the harbour next door to Monaco, because you can't walk onto a super yacht because the track is the track right in front of it. So you can't just walk around the harbour and just walk on. You have to. The only way to get on these things is a speedboat from the harbour next door. So we go. They're real powerful, really fun. You go out to sea, blast it, and then come into the harbour itself, which is a spectacular view, as you can imagine. You're going past all the super yachts on the way in. You can appreciate the size of them and everything else, and just the vista of the place. And it's an amazing way to start the day, because people go, "Wow, this is amazing." Then you get onto the super yacht from there. 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock, they're obviously champagne or coffee or croissants and everything else. and you just leave people to explore the boat and it's just enjoy the view and everything else. It's breathtaking. It's almost like one of those things that you don't need to do too much with. If we put a magician on board, it would just take away from what people are seeing and experiencing and everything else. That's why people are paying money, because they're paying money, number one, to get onto one of these things that not many people are on in the first place. And it is amazing. It's just an amazing place and piece of luxury to sort of experience. You're next to the track. There's racing all day. It's not just the F1. There is literally racing all day on every day. So there's always action on the track for people to watch as well. So that is the entertainment. We'll have music and stuff like that going on in the background. There's beautiful food all day long, gourmet foods, bars open. And it's just a really nice way to spend the day. There's always action. There's always something to watch. So we don't need to do too much during the day. In the night, we'll bring on a band or a DJ, saxophonist. We'll have a proper party on board. But as I said, it's a little bit less is more sometimes. If you just try and cram too much entertainment, so to speak, into things, you're not appreciating what the actual entertainment is, which is these amazing pieces of machinery smashing past you at 170 miles an hour, which is breathtaking in itself. For anyone that's not been to a Grand Prix, it's incredibly difficult to explain because it doesn't translate to TV that well in terms of how fast they're going and the size of them, and you can feel almost the wind and the smells. It's such an experience to be, a few meters away from that, and you're in the lap of luxury as well. So, and people people get on with each other, start talking to each other, having fun, etc. It's like going to a party on a boat, basically, on a very high net worth luxury party. But we don't have to do too much to it for people to go away thinking that is an amazing day. We just make sure we're there. We just make sure things run smoothly. Make sure that the champagne doesn't run dry and all that kind of stuff. So,
do you get to have enjoyment as well? Are you for example, like 10 o'clock? Are you also having a glass of champagne? Or
not really.
Is it kind of?
I mean, not really. If I'm honest. It's such a long weekend for us. Like, we're down there from the Monday until the following Wednesday, really. So we're down there for sort of 10, 12 days. The weekend itself is, we're up at 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock. We're setting things up, making sure things are in place, getting everyone, all our staff where they need to be in terms of, we've got transfers coming in from all over. So it is a logistical headache, if I'm honest, because Monaco its infrastructure is not set up for the number of people that come in. Basically, the population trebles or something like that for the Grand Prix. The infrastructure creaks. So we have to be on the ball and make sure that our VIP guests there sort of almost transit to getting on board the yacht as smooth as possible. And just being around, really. I mean, we'll have a glass or two of champagne with people, towards the end of the day, no problem, and we'll have a few drinks at night. But we've got to be aware that if something needs sorting, we've got to be on the ball. And if you're 3 or 4 glasses of champagne deep, you're not on the ball, if I'm honest. So we bring down. There's 10 of us down there, so it's we've got plenty of people. But it's still fun. It's not like being like the coal mine or anything. It's a lot of fun. It's a fun way to make a living.
It sounds fun. It sounds fun. I wanted to touch on, you mentioned about a story of one of your staff members who maybe had a little bit too much to drink and kind of fell asleep somewhere. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So in the evenings, this is going back to my previous agency. Again, similar thing. I think we'd got all the guests off and they'd gone back to the hotels or out in restaurants. So we said, we'll go out for a few drinks down Rascasse, which is at Monaco. There's part of the street, part of the circuit at night, basically around the swimming pool towards Rascasse, as it's called, basically turns into a street party. Thousands of people, bar, club, bar. It's a lot of fun until from the minute that the racing stops at whatever time until 5 o'clock in the morning. It is, interestingly enough, one of the things the drivers will always say at Monaco is the track always changes around that section because there's loads of booze spilt on the floor and it becomes all sticky on the floor. So they're saying it's really interesting around that section. If you skid on a bit of Red Bull that's been spilt or something like that, then it can send you off in the barriers. So, but they just let it happen. So anyway, this stuff there, he got a bit involved, shall we say, in these. Disappeared off into one of these dark bars somewhere, never to be seen again, and then we just left him to it, so to speak. Got to about 3 o'clock in the morning. He'd not come back to the flat, the apartment we were staying in. We didn't think anything else of it. That's it. Woke up in the morning, still not back. Don't know where he is. Phoning his phone, it's off. No one's seen him. We're leaving messages, etc. Where are you? Where are you? Eventually got to around about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and there's a little tip tap on the door. We've opened it, and this lad is stood there like literally stick of the dump, head to toe in black soot and everything else. Where did you go last night? I couldn't find the flat anywhere. So I just slept in one of the road tunnels in a little enclave, and obviously once the traffic starts and all the fumes, he just got absolutely covered. But he hadn't seen a mirror of himself, and he turned up with a McDonald's. And I went, have you seen yourself? And he went, no, well, go and have a look in the mirror. And he looked at himself. Said, no wonder they were giving me loads of space in McDonald's, because you can imagine that this posh McDonald's in Monaco and this lunatic with soot all over it. It's just that's one of the more acceptable stories, to be fair. But yeah, there are plenty. We do have good fun in the evenings, that's for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine, and I can imagine the McDonald's staff. I mean, yeah, like you said, being a posh McDonald's, if it'd been anywhere else, I'm sure they would have clocked. And
it's no better view out of any McDonald's in the world, I don't think, across from the 8 Harbour. It's very nice. Yeah, so we do have. Look, it's not. We're very privileged in what we do. I'm not being blasé about it. It's over the last sort of 20, 25 years, I've been to virtually every major sporting event there is for free, so to speak, and done amazing things that I would never have afforded in my own personal life. And it's very much the perks of what we do, actually. But underneath it all is just a normal business, and you've got to do sales, marketing, operations, cash, all the rest of it underneath it.
Wanted to go a little bit into some of the struggles of Berkeley Red. So, COVID, when that obviously happened, how did you guys not only just keep going, but obviously survive and get to where you are now?
Yeah, so that was a funny, not funny, haha. It was a weird time. I mean, as everyone else knew, whenever Boris made that speech, was it 23rd of March or something like that? He said, you must stay home. And we'd just come back from Cheltenham Festival, the famous super spreader event. We'd just come back, and I was talking around a load of other business owners there who were in events agency owners, and there was all this whisper about, the Grand National is going to get cancelled, what's going to go on, blah blah blah. But no one was too worried about it at the time. Even when Boris went, you must stay home for 3 weeks, no one thought it was going to go on forever. So it was kind of it's 3 weeks. We'll see what happens. And then that 3 weeks became 6 weeks, and then another, and it suddenly became this, what's going on? And at the time, our industry was basically shut down. There was no events at all. So we couldn't sell. There was none of what we could sell was happening, so to speak. So, a lot of companies, everyone was looking at each other, what are we going to do? I was the same. No one really knew what we were going to do. We weren't given any hope that there would be any end to this. It was kind of this rolling 3 weeks, and then suddenly 6 months became 9, and there seemed to be no end in sight. To the point then where they brought in the furlough scheme, and a lot of our competitors chose to do that. They went, we're just going to hibernate now. We're going to get all of our staff on a furlough, and we're just basically going to shut down. Some of our competitors decided to go down the virtual event route. Well, I'm sure we all had experience like the pub quizzes and all this sort of stuff, which have all, I mean, I saw some half decent ones, but it was basically naff stuff in terms of they were trying to invent this experience, but you were still sat on your sofa in your pants, so to speak, on your laptop, and you might have some nice food delivered to you, and it was and people were kind of surviving that way, and we could have gone down that route, but I said, you know what, we've almost got to put the flag in the sand to say this stuff is rubbish, and we're about live events, and it would be hypocritical of us to suddenly start selling online stuff just to survive in a weird way. So we didn't really have that outlet for income. And it got to the point where we were just, what we're going to do? We're running out of money here. We've got to still employ people because we can't just shut down because we're a new company. We've still got to shout from the rooftops about what we do to get, whilst all our competitors have gone to sleep, so to speak, we have the opportunity to start. And that's where I started growing quite rapidly on LinkedIn at that point, because everyone was on LinkedIn because they were sat in their garden, and it became more of a social tool. So that's where I started getting a lot of my videos started going to really well. I started getting this big viewership, and I built this up, and we still need to find a way. It's all very well having this marketing and getting this brand, building the brand, so to speak, out there for when we come back. But what are we going to do in the meantime? So I just hit on this idea that because of what we sell historically is aimed at very, very high earners. Like if you want to go on our private jet, Superyacht luxury hotel package at Monaco, you're spending 10 grand per person. No one's got 10 grand a person unless you are very wealthy or you're a millionaire. So that historically has been our sort of market of what we're selling. But I hit upon this idea. Suddenly, decent earners were sat at home for months on end. They weren't spending any money on going down the pub. They weren't spending money on restaurants. They weren't spending any money on leisure activities. I mean, you'd be surprised how much people do spend on that stuff. So we came up with this idea to do it. There was like a Monaco Grand Prix in about 18 months' time that we were sort of banking on happening. So we came up with this idea that I put out these packages that were basically cost price packages. So they look really, really good value. But I said, you could come to Monaco with us in whatever it was, 2022, and you only have to pay us £100 a month or 150 or 200, depending on what package you want to do. Suddenly, mid-earners were going, I can do that at Monaco and I give you £100 a month. I'm not spending down the pub on a Friday night. Done. And suddenly we got this quite a chunk of it. I think we had about 100 people all giving us either 100 or 150 or £200 a month cash, which allowed us to survive, basically, allowed us to pay our salaries. We weren't making any money profit-wise as such on that. It was just about getting cash in to survive as a company. And we still, on paper during that period, because we couldn't record any sale, the way that accounts work in events, you can't record the sale until the event happens in accounts. So ostensibly on paper, we were losing a lot of money, and we lost a lot of money over that period of time on paper, although we maintained our cash position throughout. So as soon as events came back, and I think British Grand Prix 2022, 2020, or whichever one it was, British Grand Prix was the first event back, and it just so happened it was F1, and we did a lot of business at that straight away. And so we started from that point, started clawing back margin, etc. And it took us probably, it's going to take us into this year to pay back the loss, so to speak, of COVID years. So it's not, we're doing all right in terms of sales. And I think this year will be probably the first year we recorded actual profit as a business. Because again, COVID just interrupted that. We're 6 years old as a company. That's beyond startup phase, but because COVID effectively took 2 years out of us, we still feel a little bit like a startup company in a way. So that depends. We have a good couple of months now. Said we should be in some really nice profit. I think as a business, having paid back all the losses and all the rest of it from the COVID years. So that's kind of how we survived in a way. It's just looked at a different type of selling, a different type of market.
Yeah, I think that's ingenious. I mean, absolutely. Like you said, you identified where the consumer effectively wasn't spending money and how much they would probably be prepared to put in, and from that you've got probably 100 new customers as well.
I mean, some of them have dropped off because ultimately we've gone back to a normal price now for things, and what we did charge like 1,500 quid for, we're now charging nearer 3. So a lot of those mid-rate I mean, they still support the company and we still know who they are and everything else, and we're still in touch, but they have a few of them have dropped off because they just don't have that sort of money anymore to buy what we are selling. But that said, we've won some people in that particular period of time who became very good customers, and started spending big with us. So yeah, swings and roundabouts a little bit.
Yeah, brilliant. I think that's amazing, to be honest. I mean, it was a challenging time for the majority of industries, unless you were Zoom, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, again, like we found, look, it hit hospitality events, anything live, hard, but there were industries that made a fortune on it. IT exploded, all the Zoom, as you said. Ironically, one of our clients who made use of that pay monthly thing was a guy who worked for Zoom as an account manager. And he said, I've just got loads of money now. I've got big bonuses. I just want to spend it. I'm okay, fine. We'll take your money. So, but it was almost like the rich and the poor, wasn't it? In COVID, it split the industries down the middle. And there was people like on my side of the fence, our side, events, hospitality, pubs, all this kind of stuff, saying we need help from the government. And there was the other side of the fence who were going, "Oh no, we're all right, Jack. And why should you get help? We're all right. We've had to make do." Sort of, kind of saying, not really. I felt, although there was quite a community feel to COVID and everyone was sat in the gardens, I did feel there was also a divide that was started between companies that were struggling, and there was some sympathy, but there were also companies. A lot of people were saying, "Tough. That's entrepreneurship. That's business ownership. You've got to find a way through it." And we found a way through it with no help with the government. We got a bounce back loan, but we've got to pay that back. And it wasn't. We were invited to get into some debt to help us. There's no help at all, really, other than a bit of cash. But it was a strange time.
It certainly was. Obviously, you don't own the yachts or the jets or anything like that. Or I don't believe you do. Do you?
No, I wouldn't be talking to you if I did. To be honest, Daniel, I'd be off somewhere. No, we charge them.
The liabilities, were these suppliers good to you? For example, I can imagine, end of March,
they
2020.
Were. I mean, because of my relationships in the business had been over, 20 years. I had really strong relationships. And there was a lot of support in our industry. Everyone was going through the same thing and no one was being too punchy about it. There was one or two companies I wasn't happy about. Who were kind of taking advantage of the situation a little bit. But in terms of our yacht, so to speak, everything just went to the following year. We didn't lose any money, so to speak. The biggest help we got actually was from our existing clients, who I'm eternally grateful for their support, where they could have gone to us and said, "We want our money back because this is not happening this year." But I think 90% of people, of existing clients, said, "No, keep the money, keep it in the pot, we'll go next year." And that was amazing. And that just showed the trust that people had in us, and the faith people had in us as a company. I think people were seeing that we were, again, if we'd gone quiet on social media and weren't shouting from the rooftops about this is what we're doing, maybe people were a little bit more nervous about us having thousands of pounds of their money. But because we're daily going, this is what we're doing, we're alive, this is what we're doing this pay monthly thing, blah, blah. People saw that and had a lot of confidence in who we were, because we were just out there and out in front of people. And I think that's a big lesson that a lot of business people need to have, especially if you're in an industry that wants to charge businesses decent amounts of money. We're not trying to sell stuff for 100 quid. We're selling stuff for thousands. And you need that trust and credibility. I think being visible on social media, that people know exactly who you are, they kind of know where you live, it gives people a lot of trust in you, as opposed to being these sort of faceless companies that who are the owners. I don't quite know who they are, and they're not on anywhere, so to speak. So I think that really did help us through that period of time.
Yeah, it's always like a big, faith in humanity almost, isn't it, as well? Like, they knew that you needed that money probably as well, otherwise they would have asked for it back, and they trusted you, like you said.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they could have quite easily have asked it. I mean, we obviously put the picture, we didn't say it in so many words, but we basically said, look, if everyone wants their money back, we probably haven't got enough cash, and we might go out of business. So, keep your money with us if you can, and we'll be fine. And I think, people were fine with it. Again, we're probably not talking, we weren't keeping 50 grand and 100 grand from people. It was sort of more, the low thousands, so to speak. So it wasn't going to be life changing necessarily for anyone, but it really did. Those clients have stayed with us throughout as well, and we're grateful to them.
That's great, really good. I wanted to move on to learn more about your plans for Red 7 Club. Can you tell me what's going on with that brand and what your vision is?
So Red 7 Club, it's sort of a side brand that we're trying to find the best way to develop, and the idea behind it, and we've sort of toyed with it for the last sort of 2 or 3 years, and the idea behind it is basically high level networking. There's a million, I'm sure people will know, business people, there's a million networking events you can go to, whether it is BNI, is it, or you can just go golf networking, and you could go to the local hotel down the road that has networking in the morning, blah blah. There's a million of those, and we've all been to them, and you tend to meet a lot of small businesses that are making their way. It's the one-man band, one-woman band, it's the small accountancy down the road, etc. And I've been to them, like, we as a company, that's not our client base at all. We might buy off others, but I'm not going to these things to buy necessarily. So I think anyone that's selling or has a service or a product that is high level, it's either luxury end or it's very expensive end of product, whatever that might be. It might be a Ferrari or a Porsche, or it might be what we sell at Monaco Grand Prix, or it might be a high-level IT system that a company buys. That's that sort of enterprise-level sale. You're probably not going to find people who are going to buy that stuff at these lower-level networking groups, as I call them. So I think there's probably a bit of a gap in the market for this higher-level networking event, but it's how do you gatekeep? How do you make sure people that come to it are valuable people who have got budget to spend at the high level? And the old-fashioned gatekeeping way that everybody knows is price. And so, what we put on is not £47.50 breakfast down the hotel. It's 800 quid to go to the British Grand Prix on qualifying day. And it's a group of 40 high net worth business owners, CEOs, all networking together, 40 people having a good laugh, having a good fun. Fun's at the heart of it as well, because that's what we are as a company. And it's just getting those sort of people together who may do business together and who want to talk to each other. It's also good for us on a selfish point of view, because they're likely to be future clients who might buy 10 places next year for their company, as opposed to themselves and a business partner, or themselves and their wife. or whoever that comes along to these events. You can come along as an individual on your own as well. We're very, very friendly and fun people, make it good fun for everybody. So we try to do those sort of high level events. They're not in a dull hotel suite. You're at the British Grand Prix in a VIP facility. You're on a boat going down the Thames to watch James Bond film. You're doing a supercar day, that sort of thing. So you're spending. So it's quite a decent. It's not ridiculous money, but it's enough that it won't attract new business owners or people just coming in. Not that there's anything wrong with that, you know what I mean? But we just want to find that gap in the market. So that's where we want to develop it. We, again, with everything else I said to you before, it's about resource and how we do resource that. At the moment, Berkeley Red is the focus for us and focus for everyone internally. And it's how do we grow that alongside that without cannibalizing one or the other. So we're just sort of working that through. And it might be that, as I said, we may get some investment in from somebody so we can bring some specialist staff in to grow the Red 7 Club and have it as its own entity. We're not sure yet, but that's the general idea of it anyway.
No, so I mean, it sounds really exciting. And our brief conversation off air as well was regarding, you're basically bringing people together that are a few steps ahead, like you said, of the traditional networking meeting where people that are going to be spending, large sums of money on items or, different areas, whether it's anything to do with their business or personal, essentially, isn't it? And then they build that high level network. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, they're just a funny sort of, not funny, but one of the last events we did, again, it was the British Grand Prix. It was the qualifying day, and we had a suite of about 40 people. And I was just over earwigging a couple of conversations between a couple of clients. And someone did a deal. Someone just bought a JCB digger on the day between two people they just met. Don't know, it was like 150 grand digger that they just bought. They just on the day, and it just kind of facilitate that sort of thing. And we know clients that have met at our events that are now doing business together and growing. Us should charge a finder's fee, really. So I wouldn't need to bother with all this running around selling superyacht places. But but that's the idea, is that we all doing business together, and whoever you're meeting at our events is a serious person. They're not trying to sell you, they're able to afford what you're selling, so to speak, or their businesses at least.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Wanted to ask a question regarding business. So what advice would you give someone trying to start a business in 2024?
There's $1 million question. I don't think, I know this, we have different routes to market now. And when I first started in business, and I'm sure when you first started jobs, there was no such thing as social media. When I started, there was no such thing as the internet. I remember my first sales job. I had a phone, a Rolodex of numbers, a folder full of sheets of product, and a fax machine. That was it. That was how we did business. And we phoned people, and in many ways, business was a little bit simpler back then. You had almost one route to market, and then that's what you had to do. But nowadays there's so many routes to market, whether that is social media, social selling, internet, email marketing. You still pick up the phone to people, direct. I mean, there's just a plethora of different things that I think, number one, can be overwhelming for a new business person. And what people try and do is all of them, and try. If I do all of them, then almost one of them's bound to work. I don't think it's the case. And even down to social media, as within social media, there's LinkedIn, there's Instagram, there's Facebook, there's Twitter or X, whatever, and probably and probably 4 or 5 others. Even trying to do all of them is virtually impossible. So I would say, look, pick 1 or 2, maybe 3 routes to market and do them really, really well. And put all your resource, whether that's human, time, or money, into doing 2 or 3 maximum 3 things or routes to market really, really well. And don't spread yourself too thin. Now, coming back to sort of the overall advice is that I don't think business has changed too much in that you're still, like B2B particularly, you're still talking to a person. You're still trying to persuade a person to do business with you either personally or for their company. That has not changed. It's just the routes to them has changed. So I think you need to understand, a lot of new business people are very good at the product side. They're very good at building what they sell. And it's amazing, or whether it's a piece of software or it's a service that they provide that they're brilliant at, or it's a brilliant product. And they invest themselves so much into making that brilliant that they forget about the sales and marketing side of things. And I would just encourage, before people go headlong and start their business, understand sales and marketing, and be proficient at it. Be proficient at one or other of them, preferably both, but be proficient at one. You can be a brilliant marketeer and be terrible at sales, but still be all right, and vice versa. But ideally, you want to have both working together. But I see a lot of new business people that just come in who are just frightened to sell, don't really know what sales is, just hoping that that sales are going to fall in their laps without understanding. You've got to talk to people about, you've got to be out there, you've got to understand that you're going to get rejected 9 times out of 10, and that's fine. So it's about understanding those. And if you are a young person, don't dive headlong into starting a business because the gurus on LinkedIn have said so. Go and work for somebody. Go and work for a small company. Work side by side with founders or directors. Learn the ropes of sales, marketing, ops, cash flow, all this kind of stuff that we all know as experience is important. And I think that's why a lot of businesses do fail. It's not necessarily it's not necessarily the product or anything else. It's just the know-how a little bit of the founder. You got to get out your own way. If you're no good at sales, you've got to employ somebody, or find another way. Or if you're no good at marketing, you've got to employ someone or get an agency to help you. It's no good sort of just floundering around a little bit. And I've been fortunate in my sort of career, I suppose, to sort of pick up all this stuff as I've gone along, and made mistakes when other people's died in many ways. But that's the best way to learn. It's the best way to learn, instead of paying a business coach who's never run his own business, so to speak, or a mentor who might have been successful 20 years ago. But what's a multi-millionaire going to be able to give to a business owner in 2024, where the landscape is so different from when they started their business? So I think yeah, it's understanding your routes to market and being very, very keyed into one or two of them and do those really, really well. Once you do those really, really well, and you start getting some business, then you can branch out. Don't try and sell the world to everybody. Have one product. We started with Monaco Grand Prix Superyacht. That was our product. That's what we marketed till people were sick in the face of it. We do a little bit. I'd still do it now, but we're now broader. But you make one thing work first for you, and then you can build from there. And that's something that I learned in my previous agency, where we were trying to market 10 channels and 55 products, and lo and behold, we kind of didn't discover the sort of the golden moment of marketing where suddenly something works amazingly well. Like LinkedIn's worked amazingly well for us. You've got to allow. I think Rory Sutherland is worth listening to on this sort of stuff. Bit of he's a genuine guru at marketing, and you've got to allow the chance of something working really, really well. And if you spread yourselves too thin, or you're too corporate, or you're too dull, you don't take any risks, you'll never find that amazing spike. And as I said, I'm not saying I'm sat here as Alan Sugar and all the rest of it. Yeah, but we hit upon LinkedIn as a sweet spot and left field marketing, because we took the risk. I didn't know it was going to work. It just took a risk on it, and it worked.
I think that's really powerful. I mean, powerful advice on so many levels as well. But I think going back to the the clarity of focusing on one or two channels is, like you said, it's the niching down, the focusing on the one thing, getting that done really well, that makes life so much easier for someone that's about to start. James, it's been a really, really interesting conversation today. Really loved it. Where can people find out more about you and Berkeley Red?
Okay, I mean, myself, I only have one social media channel personally, and that's LinkedIn. I don't have any other channels you can find me on. But if you go onto LinkedIn and search me, I'll search my name. There's not too many of us around, James Clutterbuck. There's a few, but I'd imagine I'll probably come up fairly near the top. So LinkedIn is the best place to find me. If you want to follow us as a company, just search Berkeley Red. We're on Instagram, we've got Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. But LinkedIn is probably the place to find us, or you can go onto our website, which is berkeleyred.com, and see more about what we do there. But fairly simple. We're fairly simple folk here, to be honest, so nice and easy to get hold of us. And there's always a phone number there as well.
Lovely. Well, we'll put all those details in the show notes as well for you. So thank you, James, for being on the We Built This Business podcast, and we'll be back next Tuesday.